All right, well, let's take a look at larger macro themes at the moment. Pete McGuire joining us from XM. Pete, a very good Monday to you. I hope you had a good weekend. Brand new week. What are we looking forward to? Central banks, that action remains, of course, and I guess because we've got the Fed minutes coming up this week,
Yes.
closer to home, I guess, RBNZ and its decision.
Absolutely, Andrew. And yes, it has been a good weekend. It's been a very interesting weekend from, I think, the central banks looking at what's going on. That US dollar's had a nice little move to the upside. So the traders, we've got no trade today in US, and we're going to see what happens as far as New Zealand, probably up another 50 basis points. And the overall consensus, where is, I think, the end game going to be for inflation? And if energy prices can stay at this sort of level, then that's not going to add too much horsepower to the inflation story, but it's still an unknown at the moment.
So just taking a look at the US dollar, are you surprised perhaps those movements haven't been more accentuated there, given what we're hearing, particularly your more Fed speakers? We heard that on Friday, talking about the need to be tighter for longer.
Yes.
You've had a couple of institutions come out as well, backing that, saying at least 3 more rate hikes to come.
Absolutely. Well, if that's the storyline, and that's where they're drawing the line in the sand, Andrew, then certainly that US dollar is probably going to have another leg up from here. It's through 104 now. You're at 104.05. I'm not expecting a big day as far as currency trading today, but I think it'll probably edge up a little bit further over the next week. We're going to look at what comes out from Fed Chair Powell and the minutes and his rhetoric and comments. So, yeah, the overall mood is going to be, I would say, a bit more of a stronger dollar from here. And we'll just have to see how long that particular trade lasts. But at the moment, it's fairly exciting for any currency trader.
All right. Likewise, New Zealand, what are you seeing with the Kiwi at the moment ahead of that RBNZ meeting, the expectation there that they will hike another 50 basis points?
Well, the only market that I didn't write down, Andrew, was the Kiwi as far as my numbers. So
Gotcha.
I would say, but I'll say this, that it'll probably have a leg up due to the 50 basis points. So I'm thinking that it'll probably see a little bit of a strengthen, but I'm not sure as far as, range-wise how wild it's going to be, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it have a leg up or at least have a little bit of a rally to the upside.
All right, well, let's move to the Eurozone, and look, the economy there remaining perhaps surprisingly resilient.
Yes, it is. I mean, you're thinking about the weather and the drawdown. I'm just looking at the front page of the weekend's edition of the FT. European gas prices hit 18-month low. Now, that's the headline, and that's really due to that warmer weather that they experienced over the winter period. So that's a good sign, Andrew. It really didn't crater as heavily. Imagine having gas prices, 4 or 5 times what they are at the moment. So there's the situation, and that's a positive tone for the Eurozone. So let's just hope that that can be a continuance over the next matter of months as, summer starts, or certainly spring knocks on its door in the next 6 weeks. And that's going to hopefully be a good sign. And we just don't want any big geopolitical themes playing out that can unsettle the market in that aspect.
Yeah, those low gas prices have been a huge reprieve for Europeans that have been
massive.
Suffering in that regard. Meanwhile, in the UK, and when we take a look at inflation, that did actually come off, but still, it's still double-digit figures.
Exactly right. And, the UK, it's having a pretty tough time with retail sales, GDP, and all the CPI numbers being released. So, yeah, it's not a good sign economically in the UK and the whole situation there. The pound's being crushed a little bit back at that 1.2 sort of level, and we wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit further softness in the pound. So let's see where that trades. It could be quite an exciting trade, and maybe even across, have a look at the yen versus the pound. I mean, there's that many different opportunities when you do trade pound. So it's a hotly contested market, and I think it's going to offer some great opportunities over the next 6 weeks or the end of the quarter.
Well, people were talking about energy in terms of gas. What about oil? It has come off again. What do you see in the outlook there? What's actually driving it at the moment? Because, obviously the issue perhaps of global demand weakening further, but then that was balanced by China and its reopening. The inventories seem to be fairly high in the States. How's this all breaking down then?
Well, it was spanked down hard on Friday. I mean, you've got WTI nearly down 3%. Brent was down over 2.5%. So they've had a big washout on Friday, Andrew. And so that's given up a lot of that hot air. And that's now got, the prices back to that 76 and a quarter for WTI. It's all I'll say is this: the volatility remains. If you're an energy trader, oil traders love those moves, and it doesn't seem to disappoint any month or certainly any week. So let's hope that for the consumer out there, Andrew, we see softer prices from here. But I think it's just a wait and see approach, and it's too hard to put a line in the sand where you see value, because you can be out by $5 or $10 within a week or two.
All right, and Pete, gold, what are you observing there at the moment? Of course, this being the story about the US dollar and also those bond yields. Where to from now, do you think?
Well, it's 1850, Andrew. I think it'll leg up. There's no doubting that. I'm not suggesting it's going to be at 2,000 anytime soon, but I think the overall consensus is it'll have another leg up. And I think gold, as everyone says, is the market to look at, certainly from a physical standpoint over the first half of 23. So let's not put our binoculars too far out to the third quarter, but let's just think about where we are over the next, 20 weeks or so, and I think it's going to be stronger from here. Again, it plays into many aspects, Andrew. US dollar, what goes on with CPI numbers, and of course rate rises from different central bankers.